Vladimir Putin was born in Leningrad, now St. Petersburg, on October 7, 1952. His early life was modest. He grew up in a communal apartment, a common living arrangement in Soviet Russia. Putin showed an early interest in sports, particularly judo and sambo. He also excelled in his studies, displaying a keen intellect that would serve him well in his later years. This period in Leningrad would profoundly shape his worldview, instilling in him a deep sense of Russian patriotism and a nostalgia for the Soviet era. After graduating from Leningrad State University with a law degree, Putin joined the KGB, the Soviet Union's primary security agency. He served in the KGB for 16 years, primarily in East Germany. His time in the KGB honed his skills in intelligence gathering, analysis, and strategic thinking. It also exposed him to the inner workings of power and the often ruthless methods employed by the Soviet regime. The collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991 had a profound impact on Putin's life, as it did for millions of Russians. He returned to Russia and entered politics, serving in various administrative roles in the St. Petersburg city government. This period marked a turning point in his career as he transitioned from a career in intelligence to the world of politics and governance. His rise through the ranks was swift, a testament to his political acumen and ability to navigate the turbulent waters of post-Soviet Russia. Putin's ascent to the pinnacle of Russian power began in 1999. He was appointed Prime Minister by then-President Boris Yeltsin. Yeltsin, facing declining health and political turmoil, saw in Putin a capable and loyal successor. Putin's tenure as Prime Minister was marked by a decisive response to the Second Chechen War, which boosted his popularity among the Russian people. He projected an image of strength and decisiveness, a stark contrast to the perceived weakness of the Yeltsin era. In a surprising turn of events, Yeltsin resigned on December 31, 1999, making Putin the acting president of Russia. This unexpected elevation thrust Putin into the global spotlight. He won the subsequent presidential election in March 2000, officially becoming the second president of the Russian Federation. His victory marked the beginning of a new chapter in Russian history, one that would be defined by Putin's unique brand of leadership. Putin's early presidency was focused on restoring stability to Russia after the tumultuous 1990s. He implemented economic reforms, reasserted central control over Russia's regions, and cracked down on oligarchs who had amassed vast wealth and influence during the privatization era. His actions were met with mixed reactions. While some praised him for bringing order to chaos, others criticized his methods as authoritarian and a threat to nascent democratic institutions. As Putin's rule continued, he consolidated his power and centralized decision-making within the Kremlin. He brought the media under tighter state control, limiting independent voices and critical reporting. This move was seen by many as an attempt to stifle dissent and control the narrative surrounding his leadership. Opposition figures and independent journalists faced increasing pressure, harassment, and even imprisonment. Putin's grip on power was further strengthened by constitutional changes. In 2008, he stepped down as president due to term limits, but became prime minister under his close ally Dmitry Medvedev. This maneuver allowed him to maintain significant influence over Russian politics. During his time as prime minister, he oversaw a period of economic growth fueled by high oil prices. In 2012, Putin returned to the presidency in an election that was marred by allegations of fraud and voter intimidation. He faced widespread protests, the largest since his rise to power. These protests, fueled by a desire for greater political freedom and transparency, were met with a swift and often brutal crackdown by Russian authorities. Section 4. The shadow of annexation and conflict. Putin's rule took a more assertive turn in 2014 with the annexation of Crimea from Ukraine. This move, condemned by the international community as a violation of international law, marked a turning point in East-West relations. Russia faced economic sanctions and was isolated on the world stage. The annexation of Crimea was followed by Russia's support for separatists in eastern Ukraine, further escalating the conflict. This ongoing war has resulted in thousands of casualties and a humanitarian crisis in the region. Putin's actions in Ukraine have drawn widespread condemnation, with many accusing him of aggression and expansionism. Section 5. A tight grip domestic policies. Domestically, Putin has continued to rule with an iron fist. His government has cracked down on political opposition, independent media and LGBTQ+ rights. Critics accuse him of creating a climate of fear and repression where dissent is silenced and loyalty is paramount. Despite international criticism, Putin enjoys high approval ratings among the Russian population. Many Russians credit him with restoring stability, national pride, and a sense of order after the chaos of the 1990s. Putin's economic policies have been a mixed bag. While he oversaw a period of economic growth in the 2000s, Russia's economy has struggled in recent years due to falling oil prices, Western sanctions, and structural economic problems. This has led to declining living standards for many Russians and growing discontent with the government's handling of the economy. Section 6. A legacy marred by controversy. Vladimir Putin's legacy is complex and contested. He is a figure of admiration and fear, praised for his leadership and criticized for his authoritarianism. His actions have had a profound impact on Russia's domestic and foreign policy. Putin's future and the future of Russia remain uncertain. As he enters his third decade in power, he faces mounting challenges, including a stagnant economy, growing international isolation, and potential unrest at home. Whether he can maintain his grip on power and what legacy he will ultimately leave behind are questions that only time will tell.